Adam, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Thanks for having me, buddy. How are you?
I'm good, man. I actually been a fan. I've followed your page for I think around a year now. Originally heard you over on like Mito Life and Extreme Health. I don't know if that was like 6 months or a year ago. And I've actually been playing with some of the same uh, molecules and things that you have for quite a long time. So I thought it'd be interesting to get you on. And I haven't had anyone talk about some of the different vitamins and stuff that you promote on your page. Actually, I haven't done any shows on any of the stuff that we're going to talk about today, so I thought it'd be cool to get you on. But we do have kind of like similar backgrounds from like a party background and everything that kind of shifted us into the alternative space. So why don't you give everybody your background and how you landed here?
Yeah, so I got into alternative health when I was around 24, I think, and I'm coming up on 31 now. I basically went from distinct feeling of kind of late teens, early 20s, just this amazing whatever it is, whether it's like your hormonal profile or your metabolism, your energy, the state of your organs, etc. The way things are flowing. I distinctly remember, basically feeling immortal, like like to the point of like almost delusion, where it was like I know I'm gonna die one day, but I literally don't feel like it. Like that was how I felt, uh, in that time zone. And then I remember basically my feeling, that sort of feeling and everything else distinctly dropping off a cliff and losing that sort of like immortality feeling and kind of just feeling bogged down and weathered and what I thought was just getting older. And I was just like extremely frightened of aging at that point because, I thought that this feeling of low energy and just like low mood, low vitality, etc., is just the hallmark of what being 24 was. But eventually, I came to my senses and realized, that just can't be true. And I just did what I knew how to do, which was take to the internet and just start searching around for, you know, just for answers basically and solutions. I knew if I went to a doctor and said, "Hey, I feel like shit," then they're basically gonna take some very very basic level blood tests, uh, not know how to interpret them anyways. It'd probably be useless tests regardless, but not know how to interpret them, and then give me like say, "Hey, do you want to take this drug?" And knowing that beforehand, I just kind of knew it was a waste of time to go see a traditional doctor anyways. And so I eventually just took to the internet, took to YouTube, found natural and alternative health. Basically, through the raw vegan kind of fruitarian juicing world, this guy, Dan, the life regenerator McDonald, was. I used to just watch this guy make juice and rant for like hours on end on YouTube. And he would just rant about taking your health back, totally into your own hands, 100% taking full responsibility of your health. It's 100% due to what you put in your body, the thoughts you have, the actions you take, etc. And just regaining total vitality at any age and any circumstance. And his thing was that you can do this through juicing, through live foods, uh, hydration, enzymes, etc. And so I got really deep into that world and started juicing. And that was how I transitioned from just the generic lifestyle of being a partier for 10 plus years, never missing a weekend, going on often like serious alcohol binges for like months on end, um, like every day, like things like that, to eating high quality organic fruits, vegetables, juices, focusing on not putting in any of the toxins from the environment like soaps, cosmetics, body wash, shampoo, like changing out all that stuff was another huge layer I learned during that time as well, because it's not just it's not just what you put in your body that affects you, but it's what you don't put in your body as well. So there has to be a combination of you taking in the right things and also avoiding the things that aren't helpful for to you. So I've been down a lot of different avenues since then, and was vegan for about 2 years. And after that, or towards the end of being vegan, I ended up basically presenting with classic hypothyroid symptoms. And while I regained a lot of my vitality in certain ways, there's definitely a time limit on that, at least with, restricting any animal protein and being on low calorie, low density foods all the time, like salads, juices, basically all day was the majority of my sustenance. Maybe I have like one cooked meal at night with like some sweet potato or something, or rice. Um, and most of those days for about 2 years were also intermittent fasted, like 12 to 8, very, very strict. And along that path, I did 23-1, like, 1 hour meal days. I did that for a few months. I did lots of extended fasting, water fasting, 72-hour water fasts, many 24-hour water fasts, 48-hour, did juice fasting, and just lots of that. So eventually, I hit the point where I was run down and essentially hypothyroid. So really, really skinny, low energy, or not exactly low energy, but sort of the low mood, not as much vitality, and always cold, which was like really, really present symptom I had. Was just like in the middle of the summer, my whole body could be cold any time of day. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, we have so many parallels and similarities. I partied all through high school and college, and I kind of lived somewhat of a double life. I'd like do these bodybuilding diets, and then I would like just drink like whiskey and water, right? Like trying to minimize calories so that I stayed
Yeah.
in shape because I was like out trying to get laid or whatever I was trying to do, and like it was such a double life. I'd be like researching health and drinking protein shakes, and then like drinking a fifth of whiskey at night, and it was bizarre. And then as it led forward, I kind of like see where you were smarter than me. Like you noticed the shift at 24, and around then, I think I started to use like a lot of cannabis and drugs to power through, Adderall and different things to
Hmm.
kind of get shit done. And then that, if had I stopped maybe around the time you did, I probably wouldn't have led into like I had chronic Lyme disease and mold and all this shit, and
Well.
Epstein Barr and all this shit I had to work through because I think I just kept pushing it, right, instead of like taking a step back and doing things. I just kept going with the Adderall and the drugs and the, lots of cannabis because it was legal in Michigan. And it was funny. I would do the same things. I would literally like, I wasn't vegetarian at first, but I would start doing these like 3 day juice fasts. And then when I really, really started to feel like shit, I was like, you know what? I got with my wife now. She's my girlfriend. Then she was like off and on, like pretty much her whole life vegetarian. So I was like, you know what? We went shopping one day. I was like, I just feel like shit. Like I'm just gonna like buy all this vegetarian food. So then it's funny you get sucked into like cheese pizzas and shit sometimes and stuff when you're like being vegetarian. Like I would be like mostly healthy, but then sometimes you could only eat like French fries and shit. And then I was like had a buddy who had a vegan protein bar company, Planet Protein, which is a pretty cool company, but um, he's like, dude, you got to go vegan. Like vegetarian's like the first step. You got to go vegan. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go vegan. So then I did that, and it was like a 6 months of vegetarianism, and then like a year of veganism. And towards the end, I had like like you did, just hormones were out of whack. I was like lost all my muscle. I was really bloated from eating so much like raw like salads and raw tofu and just like all this crap that I actually did feel pretty decent in the beginning, and I think that's why most people stick with it. But there's like a Goldilocks phase there where like it's probably super good for like cleaning you out or some form of like detox on the system, maybe for like 1 to 3 months or something like that, some short period, you can probably see some benefits there. But then there's the law of diminishing returns on that diet, especially veganism, where you're not even having like the eggs or the cheeses or the dairy. And I think you can kind of start to see some issues come pretty rapidly. And that happened with me. And then I had to go back to the more like paleo style diet once I quit that. And I've tried keto and carnivore and all the other shit, but pretty funny how the similarities there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I do think I definitely achieved a benefit by like going through that juice phase and stuff. But like you said, like I said, there's certainly a time limit on that, and it's about, you know, I think the important takeaway lesson there too is like when you're going through these different health phases and paradigms and stuff, when you watch something work for you, you have to really be diligent to not get caught up in that and to not box yourself in. So people will take on a therapeutic lifestyle intervention, diet protocol, etc., watch it work for them in a very short period of time, and then all of a sudden they'll begin to identify with that diet protocol, lifestyle, etc., not realizing that it's actually a therapeutic intervention and not meant to be a long form lifestyle. So one huge lesson I learned going vegan and how much it actually sucked uh, getting out of veganism, because having identified myself as a vegan, you know, socially and everything else for 2 years, is having to leave that was really painful and annoying. And so I learned the valuable lesson of, okay, I'm never going to put myself in a box again of I'm X or Y. Um, and it's about taking the benefits from certain protocols, interventions, therapies, etc., and still keeping yourself open to one, having just a very, you know, a more sustainable lifestyle in general, where you're not, let's say you're not 100% detoxing all the time, or you're not on a 100% restrictive diet, you're not only carnivore, you're not only vegan, etc., only keto, but understanding there's value and use in all these things, and we can incorporate them. You know, it's our ability to use our brains and incorporate them, you know, acutely for benefit.
Yeah, I agree. The it seems like the vegan camp's kind of the hardest to get out of. You begin to like that's all who your friends are, and you go to like these vegan meetups. And I don't know if you follow her name's Rewild Carly Rose on Instagram. She my friend Carly Rose, she's got like 100,000 followers now. She kind of blew
Cool.
up, but she had like 30,000 followers she built for like 7 years on this vegan like no waste lifestyle, right? And
Hmm.
I had her on the podcast to explain it all because she kind of had to reach out to me. And when she started wanting to eat eggs and meat again, and I was telling her like you need to, she like hadn't had a period in like over a year. She's like thinking that like CBD was gonna fix it and shit. And it was
Yeah.
a rough transition for her because of like the following that she had grew. And it's funny because now that she spoke her truth and she's like eating liver on Instagram, raw liver, and like doing all this like animal based product stuff, she's blew up even further. Now she's got almost 100,000. So it was super scary in the beginning, but it's weird when the boxing yourself in is so problematic, and I've boxed myself in keto and carnivore and vegan. And I think I've boxed myself in every single camp that you could pretty much box yourself in. And now I'm like, listen, there's going to be certain diets that work for pretty much a certain subset of the population. And if that works for you, then keep grinding it out. I'm just always like, if you feel great, then do it. I do think that the veganism does seem to experience the worst health outcomes. I think even vegetarianism could go further than that. But for the most part, it's like whatever. If you're thriving, bro, girl, whatever, do your thing.
Yeah, and each person needs to, you know, it's valuable in itself to go along this journey and discover things for your own, like, you know, for yourself. I think it's just a valuable aspect of this life we have here to even be able to make mistakes and go down the wrong path, and then find the right one eventually, or a better one. You know, it is part of the learning experience of life to to go down these different pathways, right? And sort of bring ourselves up. To have someone else just sort of be pulling you around all the time or telling you what to do, or you're just blindly following XYZ person, or you don't try anything at all, right? All of those I think are worse off.
Yeah, I totally agree. I listen to, so many different people's podcasts, and I think the one problematic issue with people who get stuck on like one health guru is like they don't really like listen to their intuition, right? Like every health podcast or guru, you can attain a little bit of good information from them, but if something that they're promoting, a supplement, you try it or whatever and it doesn't resonate with you just because they have all these testimonials on cod liver oil or whatever it may be that these people are taking, and you take it and you feel like shit, well, then use some discernment and say, well, maybe that's just not for me or not for me in this moment. Like it just, everyone's so different. And the problem is people, one, like you said, don't experiment. And two, they don't listen to their body when they start trying things.
Yeah. Yeah. And there becomes the problem of like, they think they're being sort of critical thinkers by watching these people, or following the advice of certain people that are like alternative, and they think that just blindly following that person alone is like their version of critical thinking. But it's really not that way, and you still need to take in alternative opinions and stuff, and you still need to sift through them yourself. And there's no replacement for your own discernment and for your own critical thinking and application of certain things, and then experiment and then change and then tweak things one at a time. And you really you can't avoid that process of you know of self-adjusting and going through everything yourself.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think all of the reason this podcast even exists is because I tried so many things to get healthy with the Lyme and the mold and all the parasites. And, I just had to keep trying and trying and listening and researching and had so much brain fog that it was like never ending. And that's pretty much what I talk about on this show. That's the only reason I have any form of knowledge. I'm not any expert in anything. I've just experimented a shit ton. And so from there comes some form of value for somebody, I think. But why don't we dive into kind of before we get into some of the other stuff? What happened when you started eating the animal products again? It felt a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. So I like I was saying before, I was on a very low calorie, just low nutrient dense food diet with like tons of salads and juices and little amounts of cooked food, and I was also intermittent fasting a lot and fasting. So I was in a very low metabolic state in general. And what I did to transition out of that was for for whatever reason. I mean, I'm so glad I did it this way. I transitioned very, very slowly. I guess I just kind of knew that I had to take things one step at a time. And I hadn't eaten breakfast in like 3 years. So the way that I started introducing more caloric density and more animal and any animal foods into my diet was first simply by just adding one hot chocolate at night. I would just make a hot chocolate with real milk. I didn't even drink, real milk much as a kid. I didn't like milk ever, so I was basically on like no dairy for years and years and years. Um, so I added this hot chocolate in, started having it every night, just, cacao powder, maple syrup, and milk. And and then eventually, over the course of a month or two, I started to add eggs. And I think I was just adding eggs. I don't know, in one of my meals, maybe my dinner or something. I was having like rice and eggs. And then eventually I started to add in breakfast. And after that, I added in red meat. So I started eating like ribeyes. And towards the end of my vegan phase, I was definitely feeling. Not only was I sort of like weak and gaunt on the outside, but I was definitely kind of like emotionally and behaviorally weak. And I was feeling way more, you know, emasculated, I guess. Like, I don't want to say effeminate, but I guess just to make it easy to understand, I would say I was pretty effeminate, and after eating red meat, like just taking down like 10, 15 ribeyes, all of a sudden something just changed, and it was like a light going off, and I just looked back at myself, my previous self, and I was like, wow, what was I just doing like 6 months ago? Like, I can't believe I was behaving that way. And all of a sudden, all these things started to just make a lot more sense to me, behaviorally, socially, you know, looking at myself in the mirror, etc. Things just, I just was able to see things more in a clearer way than I was able to before. And I can't really explain a specific feeling or what that really is, but even just being able to dissect, news events, and like being less manipulable. Is that a word? Overall, less malleable, right? From like the news or from current events, social events, etc. You begin to actually have a stronger frame, stronger foundation in yourself. This is what I felt, and become more immovable, and then you become the force that is then, moving and manipulating things around you, if that makes sense. And that was a big change that I felt.
Yeah, no, that's I feel the same way. I felt like the veganism world's kind of weird because you start diving into plastics and zero waste, and you start to really actually realize a lot of the terrors in the world. Before, when you were just eating kind of whatever, you didn't really care, right? I would just buy like organic chicken and just for
Mhm.
protein. And then I started, when you get in the vegan world, they're talking about all these different like horrors of the world, and of course they're there, but I see they seemed a lot more triggering when you were vegan. And I think animal products can give you the nutrients and amino acids and things you need to be a lot more grounded to process that information in just a more productive way. Like, of course, there's a lot of bullshit going on in the world, but you can't let that affect you 24/7. You have to have, like you said, a good framework and be able to look in the mirror and say, this is what's happening. But also, all I can do is change the people around me and try to get a better outcome within my little community. And hopefully that sheds forward and has a trickle effect on the people near them and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, and exactly. And I think, to live in accordance with nature, with God's law, the creation here, it's you can find a lot of that going vegan, and just, even understanding that just the beautiful cycle of the way things work here. Fruit falls off the tree, is ready for you to eat. It's colorful. It's inviting to your eyes. You eat it. It tastes good. Be, because it's nutritious. It tastes good. And there's a seed inside that you can plant, and then the cycle continues, and there's no waste involved there, and everything is in perfect harmony. Um, there's some aspect of that that's excellent, and we should take in parts of that and be able to integrate it into a lifestyle where we're also eating animal foods and taking care of animals, which take care of the land. And there's that beautiful cycle there as well. And then the animal foods give us the strength, the power, and the mental acuity we need. For instance, I don't think I could have been a leader of anything, or a builder of anything, whether that's a business or a community, etc. In my vegan, where my vegan physiology was at, I don't think I could lead. But now I lead naturally in many ways, just because that's how it's working. That's how it's flowing through.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Cool. I feel the same way about animal products, and that's why I preach about them quite a bit. I want to shift the gears here because you've been doing something that I find really interesting. I've been doing coffee enemas for quite some time, and I'm big into the detox world, having basically being pushed into that direction with all of the like heavy metals and lime and stuff that I had to remove. So I kind of got into coffee enemas a long time ago. But you've been doing these liver and gallbladder flushes. Can you explain to people like what exactly that looks like? Why would somebody be interested in a liver gallbladder flush?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this has been a big passion of mine lately, for the past, I don't know, year, let's say. And yeah, about a year now. Um, so what the liver flush is, it's based on a protocol by a guy named Andreas Moritz, and also Hulda Clark. They both have books on it, I think. I know his book. I haven't read hers. What it is it's a protocol that helps you flush out. It basically prompts your body to flush out the accumulation of what are basically gallstones or cholesterol stones, which is bile, cholesterol, proteins, different proteins that get stuck in your liver ducts, your bile ducts, which connect your liver to your gallbladder and in your gallbladder itself. And the it's these compounds form, like the bile, the cholesterol, etc. They form because your bile isn't flowing properly, so it's being inhibited the flow by, if you're like me, drinking tons of alcohol for 10, 15 years, like tons, just that alone will do it. 100%. Huge damage on your liver, huge impeding the bile flow. And then on top of that, you add eating, tons of PUFAs, fast foods, seed oils, uh, all types of preservatives. Like if you had to do an audit on the things you ate when you were like, from when you were like 1 to, I don't know, 15, 20, whatever it is, if you had to do a serious audit and look at everything, if there was a way for you to just like see everything all at once, you would be horrified, right? I would be horrified. You'd be horrified. That goes for probably a lot of us, probably most of us. And so all those preservatives, all the packaged food we ate, all the processed, frozen, this, that, cause impeded bile flow as well. Um, you have estrogen dominance. You've got environmental chemicals, so things like industrial chemicals that are in soaps, your shampoo, body wash, every hand soap you use for the first, until you switch natural, 20, however many years it was, all the cleaning products that are sprayed around your house, paints, drywalls, you name it, right? All these industrial chemicals slow our metabolism down. They slow all of our bodily functions down. And when the bile flow gets impeded is when these chemicals like bile and cholesterol and stuff, they start to congeal and they basically form stones. So that's what gallstones are essentially made of. And they get stuck in your bile ducts and in your gallbladder. So the protocol consists of a few days of very simple prep, and then on flush day, you stop eating around 1 p.m. and you drink a series of Epsom salt water drinks, which are to dilate the bile ducts and to act as a laxative. And then at night, you drink olive oil and lemon juice, and that stimulates basically a huge release of bile, because bile releases in our body to digest fat. And so that's why it's so important, because it helps us assimilate fat soluble vitamins and to digest our fat and our food, etc., that we eat. So, so the olive oil and lemon juice stimulates a huge release of bile because you're drinking about half a cup of olive oil. So your body's like, okay, I need to digest tons of fat all at once. So it releases basically like as much as it can from your gallbladder and your bile ducts. And then with the Epsom salts, as a laxative, you're basically removing all that stuff through the number two. Uh, and you do that all through the morning and the next day.
Wow, super interesting. I seen your post where you kind of showed the pictures of the gallstones and things like that. So, how many of those have you done, and what has been your experience on as far as like the benefits or the effects you've seen?
So I've done, I think I've done 7 now, and I've passed tons of stones. Like, you know, any there's a lot of them that are like pebble size, like very very small, and you will be releasing like thousands of those. And then
Wow.
larger ones, you know, there's like medium sized ones, like the size of chickpeas, size of maybe 2 chickpeas put together, and then there are even bigger ones that I've passed that are just like the size of my thumb easily. It's crazy, like just crazy to see the things that we have that are impeding our life force and our body's overall function to come out of you. And the benefits that you see from removing that is, so from a firsthand experience, when I get the benefits of a flush, for me it's like a feeling of true vitality and of like life force. So I don't know exactly how to like quantify that, but the feeling of like bile flowing properly and your liver functioning very well is like you're like digesting food amazingly. You're hungry. You're hungry for life. You feel vital. Your mood is like really raised. Like you're happy. Just even just like staring at a wall or staring at a tree, you're still happy because the liver is just functioning properly. And it's like this whole orchestra in the body is just like playing the right music for once, like where like before maybe like the instruments are all out of whack, and like one person's playing one note and the other person's playing a whole different song, and all of a sudden it's like the symphony just starts playing the right song, the right music, and everything just starts to just click and flow, and it feels really really good. And that's how, like, in my opinion, that's what like true vitality feels like. And you can sort of like feel that temporarily, and then as your body knows that you've eliminated a bunch of that stuff, more toxicity that's essentially like further suppressed in your gallbladder and your bile ducts, etc., moves can move forward, and you can start to feel sort of congested again, and then that's when you'll flush again and again. And a lot of people that have surpassed basically like 20, 40, 50 flushes are ones that will report like essentially like life-changing benefit. And so my goal is to get up there.
Wow. And so do you just kind of go off of like that sort of feeling like, okay, I think I need another flush, or is there like a specific time period you're supposed to wait between flushes? How do you know how often to do one?
Yeah, so this is like, we're in, it's not totally uncharted territory, but there's no studies done on this, right? There's no science on the liver flush. So what we're dealing with really is real people with real experiences, and we're all learning from each other. In the book, the Andreas Morris book, um, he says to do one once a month, but
Hmm.
we have like this kind of small community of experienced liver flushers, and I have a friend. His name's Adam as well, and this guy has. I think he started flushing after me, and he's surpassed 60 now, and I've done 7. Right, so he's doing them like once a week, and you have some of these. I have a friend, Marta, and she was chronically ill for a long time. She's reversed a lot of that, but she's done 150. Um, and so they're doing like 3 flushes sometimes in like one series. They're doing just crazy stuff. Basically, just you know, cutting through the forest, making a brand new path in this whole world. So there isn't any rules per se, but you do really have to be in tune with your body, and this process it forces you to be in tune with your body, because you start to get feedback like you've never received before. Like I've never had any sensation of my liver ever. Like it's just been so suppressed that I haven't ever felt what liver good or bad is like. It just, for me, it was just I drove it into the ground and that was it. And my body just kind of suppressed that for a long time, and then we've been slowly regaining vitality over the past 6 7 years. But you start to feel very very vivid feedback, and especially when you feel the highs of like the just like high like crazy bile flow after a flush, then even like moderate lows start to feel a lot lower because you get used to a higher standard of living, right? And that's happened to me many times on my health journey in general, right? It's like you just keep peeling back layers and layers of where you're getting used to higher and higher standards of being and living, where like before you could have functioned on no sleep and you're just like this kind of robot just going around life. But now you feel like you want to have more, like you only want to function with the most amount of energy and the best digestion and all that stuff. And so that's a big learning experience that comes through this process, and you really get in tune with your body, which I think is highly valuable.
That's amazing. I can even from coffee enemas, I can feel some sort of like what you're describing right now,
Mhm.
right? Like a couple hours after the enema, you just feel like you release the bile, especially if I'm like doing a pretty heavy kind of like mineral rebalancing or some form of like detox protocol that I had to do for Lyme. When I would do the enemas, I'm like, ooh, like the brain fog kind of lifts, the energy's there, the inflammation's down. So I can only imagine what you're doing with these liver flushes. Probably are amazing. I know people are going to maybe ask me if they listen to this episode. Is there just like a PDF they can read to kind of get a quick rundown on how to do a liver flush, or would you suggest reading the entire book? Because some people like just want to know what the fuck to do, and then some people want to like actually want to read the entire book. There's always two camps.
I can send you the PDF. There's like a link to it, and they can go right to the chapter. It's like, I don't know, chapter 9 or 10 or something, and they can just read that one chapter, and it basically just outlines the protocol. Um, I have it listed very basically on my Instagram profile, but
Okay, we'll send people there, and also if you want to send over the PDF, I'll link it in the show notes just so it's easier that way, I guess.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
yeah, and coffee enemas I'm a huge fan of, and those release bile like in a really great way as well. So if someone didn't want to do the flush, I would say like do coffee enemas, do castor oil packs, take bitters, uh, get on maybe some like enzymes, some ox bile. Tudka is awesome, and there you have more like a I guess like a more gentler liver detox, but still quite effective. It's not gonna you're not gonna get the same results as doing this intense flushing, but with coffee enemas, especially like and the rest of the stuff in Tudka, you're gonna get a really you know at least a very good result from that, from staying consistent with that stuff.
Yeah, you kind of just named like all the things. I haven't done a liver flush, but I was interested in picking your brain on it. And because I do the ox bile, because I'm on a kind of similar. I know you might have you listened to Mito Life, I know, so you might have heard the Clark Engelbert episode, the HTMA practitioner. So I've talked to Clark quite a few times and have his number and everything, but I work with a different practitioner, but they're like the same kind of camp, Paul Eck guys, and do
Is it the
mineral
redox
rebound. Yeah,
stasis?
Redox. Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
That's my practitioner. He's great.
cool.
He has me on the ox bile with every meal because of the minerals will help to detox the metals. And so I was like, I'm on ox bile. I do the taurine, which I want to jump into next, and the glycine. So kind of you named all the things that I'm kind of doing, and then the coffee enemas, but I haven't tried the actual liver flushes quite yet. But yeah, if you've never had a HTMA done by someone like Clark or Redox, it's super eye opening comparison to an HTMA I've had in the past. Like the way that they analyze and interpret being like the Paul Eck guys, like it's
Hmm.
super different in comparison into how a normal person would read it, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I love that they are bringing in more nuance to the conversation, and like uh, understanding mineral metal antagonism and stuff is
Mm-hmm.
basically with like magnesium and stuff. I like wrote about that a long time ago, and but these guys are like bringing it to the next level, which is super awesome.
Yeah, he actually he had me taking, even though my magnesium was low, I was taking like 5 caps of this Bioptimizers product, which I love Bioptimizers. I've had them on the show multiple times, and they're great, and I love that magnesium. And I used to do the magnesium, which you sell the what's it called, bicarb, and but he actually has me taking 2 caps instead of 5, and so that's like interesting, right? It's like it's not this type of like replacement theory. It's like he's like, no, I can bump your zinc up, and then that'll boost the calcium magnesium ratio. So it's really interesting how they like, you would think like, oh, my magnesium to calcium ratio is low, I'll just take like way more magnesium, and he has me taking less. So really interesting how they like have you, there's so much nuance to the minerals and how they affect each other. And so I'm excited to see how the minerals, how the, as I keep retaking tests, and how they switch. But let's jump into, I loved your post about glycine and taurine. Speaking of Bioptimizers, they have an amazing sleep supplement. I just did a show on it last week. It's not out yet, and it's got taurine and glycine in it. And I actually sent the CEO of Bioptimizers your post because I asked him if he had done any research about like bile and bile flow with the mixture of taurine and glycine, and that was actually new to him. So I figured it'd be a little bit of research that he could dive into to help promote his sleep supplement, because that's when you're mostly detoxing, right? It's when you want the bile to kind of dump and get everything flowing, is why you sleep, so you can kind of drain everything. But why don't you tell us why you love like a glycine kind of taurine combo for bile?
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I'll reach out to that guy for royalties for using my stuff. So yeah. So learning about the liver and the bile flow and stuff has led me to understanding the basically a newfound importance of glycine and taurine. So these are two amino acids that have been used, by a very like large demographic of sort of like the health communities, even like ranging into bodybuilding and stuff. So these are like super super widely used amino acids, and most people know taurine because it's like in Red Bulls. It's like they give you wings kind of amino acid, and then glycine is seen as this like sleep aid, basically. But there's definitely more to the story there, and the beauty about these two amino acids, in particular, about what I'm going to go through, is that when we're talking about bile, so bile, like I said before, it's a substance that helps you digest the fats that you consume. Basically, it helps you. It binds to cholesterol. It helps you use. It's part of the use of cholesterol. So, like, let's say, like a high marker of cholesterol could just be that your bile flow, your liver is basically impeded, and that's why you're getting that reading, right? Taurine and glycine. Actually, let me back up. So there's bile acids, which get produced by the liver. So the liver produces bile acids, and then from there, what gets formed are bile salts, and bile salts are the final product that actually do this fat digesting and stuff. So you get bile acids that conjugate with amino acids. So the two main amino acids that the bile acids conjugate with are taurine and glycine. And when they do that, they create bile salts. And so, like TUDCA, for example, is a bile salt, and the UDCA is ursi deoxycholic acid. That's the bile acid, and taurine is the T. So once you have all of it in one conjugated, that's TUDCA is the bile salt, and that's basically like a detergent. It helps clean your intestine. It keeps your intestine clean. It basically like sweeps through. Can help you detox estrogen, help you detox things that are rotting in your intestine potentially because you're not digesting them well. And assimilate fat soluble vitamins. So, you know, your liver's all messed up and you're taking tons of fat solubles. Maybe you're not even getting the most out of them, or much at all, because your bile isn't operating properly. So when you take exogenous taurine and glycine, you're helping these bile acids get conjugated into bile salts, and then you're getting this detergent aspect. You're getting the fat soluble vitamin digestibility. You might improve your digestion because now you're digesting fat better, and then you're going to get, reduced bloating, and then your liver is going to start functioning better because you're moving these bile acids through into bile salts, and you're reducing some of that congestion there. So your liver starts to function better, and then imagine the liver functioning better is just a domino effect because of how many functions the liver has. So all of a sudden you're creating glycogen better, so you're using carbohydrates better. Your metabolism is just running better because like the liver is your metabolic orchestrator, producing enzymes that do all these different functions, right? And so really like the base of your metabolic health starts there. It starts at the liver. And what we're trying to do is basically keep the energy flowing so that it can do its job. And taurine and glycine basically help greatly through that process there of forming the bile salts.
That's amazing. Do you have any information? This kind of just popped in my mind. It wasn't in my notes about why do we need so much help with bile flow? Is it nutritional deficiencies? Is it just the overall amount of toxins that are kind of like making the bile flow not as active as it normally would be? I mean, what do you think it is, and why we need so much bile support?
I think basically our circumstance, you know, our lives typically put an enormous stress on the liver. So when you think of like the just the amount of toxins that we're exposed to on a day to day basis, like you might go outside and inhale some like exhaust from a bunch of cars,
Quick
and then
chemtrail.
yeah, quick little sniff of chemtrail. You go into Walmart, maybe they have like cleaners like sprayed all over the store, over every surface, etc. So you're like breathing in like who knows what industrial cleaners, and like your primary, detoxifier is your liver. And so imagine it shouldn't be coming into contact with almost any of this stuff on a day-to-day basis. So like you're constantly getting bombarded with like, and then you go wash your dishes with like this, palm olive dish soap or something, and you're like inhaling it and getting all over your skin, and you're absorbing it, and then you go wash your body in chlorinated tap water. So like it's just ubiquitous for the average person who hasn't gone thoroughly audited their life and try to remove as many of these environmental stressors as possible. Then you're just straight up inundated with toxins, environmental toxins, all day, every day. On top of that, you're not grounded, so your electrical flow is all messed up, or your body, because you sit in an office or your house all day, and you're light deficient, etc. So energetically, you're slowing down, and then on top of that, then we get into the food. Like we haven't even been into the food yet. So on top of that, you've consumed basically like PUFAs your entire life. You have like low amount of high quality saturated fats in ratio to the unsaturated fats your entire life, which is a stress on the liver. You have like nutrient deficiencies out the wazoo because you grew up on basically like everything you ate probably 3 times a day was like just made of white flour, and then you ate fast food, like, and then you stayed up all night. Like maybe I'm just you, maybe it was me. I'm just
It
saying,
was definitely
for
me.
example. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's really just like it's like how is the liver even functioning is like a better question. It's like how are we even alive? It's like is like a more amazing question to me. And so but yeah, but the liver being the primary detoxifier is why it's taken such a hit. And so like, if you were to just have like small amounts of issues, or like small amounts of toxins being present every day, maybe you'd be able to handle it and you'd be totally fine. But you had everything I listed, everything I just said, and then you went and got drunk like every single weekend, and just and the experience of drunkenness itself is the liver not metabolizing alcohol fast enough, and so you get all woozy and stuff. So really, what we're dealing with is just like extreme liver toxicity, like to the max, and that entire you know thing that I've just illustrated is, I guess, what impedes bile flow. It's like, it's just your liver's at a halt.
Yeah, it's just insane. I always actually say that to my wife. Like, it's actually more amazing that I'm actually alive and somewhat healthy than it actually is that I still have a little bit of brain fog, you know? Like, I'm like, what I did to this body was just absolutely insane. I'd be stay up on drugs for 2 days straight, and just like then you start getting into seed oils and you go, fuck, dude, I don't think I ever ate a meal that wasn't seed oils for
Exactly.
30 years. Like, it's insane, dude. It's crazy. I want to circle back around to the Tudka. So, because I just take the regular taurine that's in the Bioptimizer sleep supplement. Why do you like Tudka more than you like just a regular taurine supplement? My buddy loves Tudka too.
Yeah, taurine is great. And but taurine has benefits beyond just it being used as a bile salt, or for the creation of bile salt. And so you may use, your body may assimilate a lot of that taurine and use it for many different processes.
Mm.
When you're taking it as todka, then you are taking the formed bile salt, and it's having that concentrated effect. It's not doing anything else. And so you are directly taking, the liver support, the liver detergent, and nothing else.
That makes a lot of sense. What kind of dose are you doing with the taurine and the glycine?
Um, so I've been experimenting with different doses. Today and yesterday I've been, actually, I think for 3 days straight, it's 3 grams of taurine I've been doing, two or three. I'm actually forgetting now. Glycine, I don't have any glycine right now, so I'm sticking to what's in my Mag Plus capsules. So I'll be getting only around 400 to 600 milligrams a day.
Hmm.
Um, but the taurine is one that I'm really experimenting with taking more and more of, and at higher doses, yeah, you can really like clear your glycogen stores, and you can start using burning through energy real fast. And it's actually in Red Bull because it balances the caffeine. It's not like a stimulant. It actually is anti anxiety, and it actually helps calm you and keep you more stable. So you get like more of a stable energetic effect from taurine. Um, and so yeah, I've been using it. I used it pre-workout yesterday with a couple drops of methylene blue under my tongue, some OJ, and some salt, and yeah, I felt great through the workout.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, I think there's 3 grams, if I'm not mistaken, in that sleep supplement of each glycine and taurine. And
Great,
that sleep supplement is I mean, there's some other stuff in there too, like a little bit of zinc, magnesium, some active form of B6, a couple things. But
great,
that thing is, they sent me a free bottle and I haven't quit using it since. I haven't missed a day. I
nice.
was like, let me buy like 5 more of these. It was actually amazing for sleep. And you just actually brought up something where I want to shift to for the rest of the show, because I've been doing methylene blue for quite some time. And what I was doing for the longest, and I still do that, is to just buy like a bulk of the like pharmaceutical grade powder and then just mix it up myself. But I know a lot of people don't want to go like into the, okay, mix it up. How many milligrams is each drop? And you have it kind of already easily in a form for them to just buy it in a bottle and it's already dosed at, I believe, 1 milligram a drop, if I'm not mistaken. But why don't you tell us what made you go down the methylene blue rabbit hole and what methylene blue even is?
Yeah, yeah, it's half a milligram, and so methylene blue I found a few years ago. I guess it must have been almost 4 or 5 years ago now. Time's flying, and I initially found it as just going through maybe the repeat forums or something like that, and I wanted to just try it for myself. Seemed like it had awesome benefits for the metabolism and as a nootropic, and so I began taking it. Um, and just researching it more, and I found just so many tremendous benefits that it had, to the point where I was like, this thing is too good to be true. Like, it benefits the metabolism like immensely. It's like basically like anti-poison of all sorts. Like, it's literally like anti-pesticide, anti-carbon monoxide, anti-shock. Just like any poisoning you get, it's beneficial for, because of the nature of that. And I remember feeling just like this super super heightened state of being, like to the point where like my quality of life was just improved. Like, from taking methylene blue, I just experienced a higher quality of life, and that just raised the bar. Like, boom, that's my standard. So um, I was researching to start my company, and I really just wanted to make like a magnesium bicarbonate product. That was like number one thing I was looking to do, and I found a way to basically be able to distribute, like sell methylene blue to more people, get it in more people's hands. And I said, like, I have to do this. I looked around for safety. Like, I was like, there's got to be a catch here. Like, this thing, maybe it's unsafe or something. And I looked and looked and looked. It's extraordinarily safe. Like, there's one contraindication with SSRIs, and one enzyme deficiency disorder, very rare. And otherwise, it's like extremely safe. And from then on, I knew I had to sell it, and I had to basically bring it to the public. Um, and that's what I did. So, I mean, if you want, I can basically go into what it is and what it does, or if there's anything
Yeah, go
specific
ahead.
you want to hear about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead and tell people. I know what it is, but go ahead and let people know what methylene blue even is.
Yeah, so it's a synthetic compound that actually comes from the textile dye industry. So it's a blue dye. It's synthetic, made in a lab, and it was used first for biological staining in like tissue samples back in 1876. So it's actually the oldest synthetic medicinal compound that was ever used. It's the very first one, and it was used by a German guy named Paul Ehrlich. He was using it for biological tissue staining when studying patients with like certain infections, and he would basically find that these infections, these tissues would essentially totally regain their health after he would stain them, which he just wanted. He was basically just trying to stain them for color, for identification purposes, and he was basically witnessing these tissues just be brought back to life. And so that is the foundation of what methylene blue does. It basically breathes life back into tissues, and it does that through the flow of electrons. So methylene blue is considered a redox agent, which means it can accept and give electrons as need be in the context that it's in. So uh, let's say, so oxidation is when something is losing electrons. So you have a molecule in your body, it's being oxidized, it's losing electrons. Methylene blue can come in and give its own electrons back to that thing that's been oxidized, and then that molecule, that tissue, etc., basically comes back to health, comes back to life. Vice versa, if something is reduced or it has too much electrons, too many electrons, methylene blue can take on more electrons. Just I guess because of the way the molecule is, it can take on more electrons from that thing that's basically has too many. So it has this effect where it's like it's like an amazing like center forward or something in soccer, like a center midfielder, where it can pass the ball and receive the ball and pass the ball back and receive the ball, until basically your body can score a goal, which is like achieve good health. And it does that through the electron flow. So it helps your body. What your body does when it's creating energy is it runs through a process in your mitochondria called the electron transport chain, and it's basically just like in your cells. There's like just in a very basic level, there's like electrons flowing through this like chain they call it, and that's where oxygen is being sort of used and breathed, and oxygen becomes water through that process, and heat and water create your structure, which is you, and structure and energy are basically intertwined. They exist together, and that's why Ray Peat always talked about energy and structure, because they are one and the same. And so this process of energy using oxygen into water and heat, um, that can get impeded basically by pesticides, by toxins, etc. What those things do is they block the electron transport, and therefore they impede your body's producing energy and producing structure. So what methylene blue does is it's basically like a shortcut. So isn't where oxygen is being blocked from taking on these electrons through this chain, methylene blue is basically able to step in and do that process without oxygen, being involved. And so it reinvigorates the entire energy process through your whole body. It's not a specific action, It's not going to your nose or your toes or your freaking fingers. Methylene blue has this amazing whole body effect, and it's able to reinvigorate tissues that basically it goes where it needs to go, and reinvigorates those tissues, from an electrical perspective.
Yeah, and that's what it seems to happen is when I take methylene blue, I just feel more energy, more it's like a nootropic basically, like more mental clarity, just all around better feeling. And I've never had one single negative side effect, and I've played with 300 milligram suppositories. I've done higher dose with the drops. I've done lower dose. Have you seen? Is there a difference in dosing? I think I've read that somewhere. Like a higher dose is kind of more like if you're really sick, kind of antiviral, and then people are doing the couple more like 1, 2, 3, 4 milligram doses for like the nootropic effect. Is that correct?
Yeah. So with taking methylene blue, I just think that more isn't always better. It just, even in my experience, like sometimes even a lower dose will have a greater effect on me. I don't know why that is exactly, but that's just the way that it seems. And a lot of people I talk to, and things that I've read suggest similar stuff. Um, and so there's a bit of, I guess, nuance we can go into with dosings. Like some people like to add it to water and just drink it all down, and other people like to take it under their tongue. And so when you're taking it under your tongue and letting it absorb through the gums, you're getting a more direct uh, entryway into your bloodstream by letting it sit there, versus when you're bringing it down into the digestive tract, it has to go through the stomach and then essentially be absorbed through the intestine. Um, and so you may not absorb as much, or it may have more of a effect on cleaning the gut, or helping the gut, versus when you're taking it under your tongue, it's going to go right into your bloodstream and then be delivered essentially through the blood to X or Y tissue. And the reason it has a nootropic effect, mainly for most people, is that the brain uses, a quarter of your entire body's oxygen, and about the same in your glucose. And so you're really like the highest demand for it is in the brain. Is if the oxygen flow is impeded and whatever, the highest demand will be in the brain, and therefore you'll feel it more as a nootropic versus your knee or something. Like my knee feels amazing. Um, and so for me, even drops as low as 2 milligrams, 1 milligram, even, which is like 2 drops, 4 drops, up to, let's say, 5 to 10 milligrams. Those to me are like very effective doses for day to day, focus, energy production, mental clarity, improvement in day to day motor abilities and that kind of thing, and just overall cognition and stuff. So I stick to those doses. You can try more, obviously, but then it gets into clinical dosing, which is like if you go to a hospital and you're severely poisoned, let's say with carbon monoxide, they will then introduce a dose that's like 1 milligram per kilogram of body weight, up to, let's say, almost 4 or 5. So that would be like clinical dosing. And clinical dosing is well studied, and it's safe as well. But the way that, remember earlier in the conversation, I spoke about like therapy and lifestyle. That's an acute therapeutic dose. And the goal there is to reverse severe toxic poisoning throughout the body. And so I don't see the need to take, let's say, like those types of clinical dosings on a day to day basis if you're not having carbon monoxide poisoning every single day. Hopefully not. Um, yeah, but it is approved in hospital for septic shock, carbon monoxide poisoning, UTIs, and malaria, and a blood disorder called methemoglobinemia. And methemoglobinemia is essentially like your blood is not carrying oxygen, and that's actually blue blood. And then when your blood has oxygen in it, it's red.
Super interesting. And um, I'm gonna try out putting that under my tongue next time I try it, because I feel like that maybe that's kind of mimicking the troches that everyone takes. I've never played with the troches yet, but I didn't really think of that. I always just put it in the water. And I know that maybe we'll get banned for talking about this, but when the thing was going around the past couple of years, every single time that I thought that I had that or maybe had that, I would do some pretty higher doses, like a couple times a day for a few days, and I would be great within like 24 hours whenever I had a bug. But I do think maybe that's not definitely not necessary for just a daily kind of functioning, getting some work done, and just improving overall energy.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of have a different perspective because I don't actually believe in the existence of viruses or that they cause illness. But whatever does cause this process, the illness process, whether it's energetic in nature or it's a detoxification of sorts, or something in between, um, it's easier to know what isn't than what is. But what I will say is that methylene blue is very, very effective in those scenarios. Not because it suppresses symptoms like other drugs, or other types of medicines, but it basically reinvigorates your life flow and your body's entire way of producing energy and using oxygen, and then that helps you detox, and that helps you body function. And so people can turn around a lot quicker from these acute illnesses, by using a little higher dose. And maybe like what you said is in a situation like that, perhaps there's a higher demand for a little bit more, and then you can increase the dose temporarily.
Yeah, as my wife and I have us doing a couple higher doses, maybe like 60 milligrams or 50, a couple times a day for a couple days, stack it with a little ozone, and then we already have our normal like sauna and kind of healthy PMF mat and things over here anyway. So I'm never really too worried about getting a sniffle or a bug. I don't really find it to be intimidating, or, I'm not washing my hands. I probably wash my hands the least amount of times than I ever have in the past couple of years. I feel like that's such a psyop as well, and kind of diminishes your immune function as well. I wanted to ask you about stacking methylene blue with some form of like red light therapy. Why do people like to combine the two?
They like to do that based on there's quite a few studies where methylene blue is used with certain frequencies of light, and they basically use that to kill cancer cells, to get rid of cancers, yeah, and really like things like that, and they do it for certain illnesses. But yeah, it's based on those studies, and methylene blue has a similar like, so if we're talking about red light therapy stimulates like the cytochrome c oxidase, which is part of the electron transport chain, and methylene blue can have a similar effect. It does, and so basically it's like a mitochondrial, energy flow type of stack, I guess you could call it. And that's, I think, why it's beneficial and used mainly. Um, you wouldn't want to take like a super duper high dose, like an entire bottle, let's say, or like a super clinical dose, maybe, and then shine UV, like go in the sun, UV light, because then you can actually get like photo damage that way. But in small doses, it's beneficial. It's one of those things where the dose makes the effect.
That's interesting. I didn't know that about the high doses, and that you kind of touched on something else I was going to bring up. If ever someone doesn't have like obviously a super fancy red light panel like I do or whatever, is sunlight still doable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, sunlight's just so amazing for so many things. It's like, why wouldn't I mean? I live in Florida, and I'm assuming that's part of the reason why you moved to Mexico. I mean,
Hmm.
you went all the way to Mexico, so good for you. But just the sunlight, man. I'm from Michigan. I'm like you from up north, man, and
Hmm.
it's like you didn't even know you had seasonal depression and how much sunlight could do for you until you just moved to somewhere where you can get it year round. It's absolutely life changing.
It really is. Yeah, yeah, and the light from the sun is like what helps our body communicate with our entire surroundings, right? And when we're shielded from that, forced to stay inside essentially in like our drywalled houses and stuff, I think we lose our connection to real life, and we lose our connection to reality, which is dampening energetically, but it's like it dampens like the light of our soul, or like the inner light that like is supposed to shine from us, when we lose our connection to the light, because light is like an information source. And so when we lose connection to that, I think it's beyond just like a physical, or like material thing that we lose. Yeah, so that's kind of my thought.
Yeah, because even I know it's so hard, like living back home, to get out there when it's cold. But it's like even just getting out there with with like a winter coat on or whatever and a hat, and just getting some in your eyes, I feel like would be life changing for
Yeah.
people. And it's hard though. I mean, I would probably do it if I had to move back to the snow. Just knowing what I know now, I'd probably force it. So at
Hmm.
least get out there and just see what you can do, and stay out there for 15 minutes or something, kind of early, but I know it's hard, but it just would make so much of a big change, and that's why I haven't left Florida, because I just can go out there year round, get some grounding in. Like usually after I get off a podcast, because sometimes I'll go like 2-3 hours depending on the guest, and it's like after staring at these damn screens and this ring light and everything for a few hours, I'm like instantly outside, bare feet, 30, 45 minutes of sun just to kind of rebalance from all this fucking phones and everything that we're looking at all day.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I mean, I've prioritized my workspace being like I like a huge sort of like glass door that's wide open in front of me and just tons of light coming in here. So I've made sure to prioritize that with the way that I've moved and lived and stuff. And it's made a huge difference for my eyes as well. I used to work
Hmm.
even just last year, late last year, in a very dark room and getting the light from the screen while you're in a dark room is like your pupils dilate because you're in a dark room, and then you're getting the blue light from the screen into your dilated pupils. So you're getting like a super huge dose of the blue light and the screen and probably flicker from the screen and stuff. And that was having like I was just dry eye every day, pain like very noticeable like eye pain and stuff every day and strain. But yeah, you're just working, so you kind of say you have to. But coming here with just all this bright light flooding into my workspace all the time, my pupils are smaller, so they're letting in less light from the screen, and just constantly feel less dry eye and just way better overall, less irritation.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Do you use like the Iris program?
I
I've
do.
had Iris for like 5 years at least. Like I can't believe people would sit on their computer and work all day without it. It's like $15 for like a lifetime thing, and it's like big game changer.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I've been using that for a long time, especially at night too, or in the dark. Like light relativity is very very important. So like when you're in a bright space, obviously you can handle more light coming off a screen, but it's in the dark. It matters even. I'd say like a lot more.
Yeah, that's the best part about Iris. You can just go all the way red if you need to jump on something. And I have the same. If I like click the button on my phone 3 times, it goes red as well. So I kind of do have both of those, and just in case I need to check an email or do some last minute stuff at night, that I can at least hop on there without being so affected by the blue light.
Hmm.
Cool, man. Is there anything else you want to touch on about methylene blue? People should know about methylene blue before we wrap it up.
No, not really. I mean, I encourage people to experiment and find out, take in information for themselves, experiment and adjust based on how your body responds. Everyone is different and in a different context. So I think that, you know, instead of asking a ton of questions, you should just like go find answers and find what those are for you.
And N of one experiment, right?
Yeah.
That's how I look at my lifestyle for sure. And if I'm not mistaken, last time I looked on your website, the methylene blue was actually just labeled MB with a question mark. Is it still like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Back in April of 2021, the product basically got ripped off my website, and I was told not to have it on there. And so I had to
Wow.
change things up a little bit
I wouldn't even think that would be legal, that they could just do that.
on
Well,
their
especially
I'm
with so many other
on their
companies.
systems.
So many other companies promote it. It's crazy. How are they not getting flagged down?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It was me specifically that got I got the hammer dropped on me, and the same week Instagram and Facebook restricted all my accounts. I can't do any advertising or anything like that to this day.
Wow, still that's crazy. I got flagged for I made a coffee enema post and kind of just said that I had been experimenting with putting copper sulfate drops in there and methylene blue drops, right? And it got like flagged, and I felt like honestly, I felt like I got less engagement on my profile ever since. And it didn't say anything about the virus or anything. It was just like talked about the benefits of coffee enemas, and I said lately I've been experimenting with adding in copper sulfate drops in methylene blue. That's all it said. It didn't say like antiviral or this or that. And it literally got like COVID flagged, and I felt like my whole profile got less engagement ever since.
Yeah, yeah, you're in the doghouse now.
I was like,
Welcome.
what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
I guess it was just the wrong time period because it was like 2020 or 2021, and it was super interesting. And I didn't think anything of it because, they got the methylene blue trochees and Ben Greenfield talk. I mean, everyone talks about it. So, but it got flagged,
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. So, like, I don't really understand how those companies and those guys get away with it. Because for
especially with the huge
me,
platforms they have. Like, you're looking at little guys like I don't have that big of a following, and yours is a lot bigger than mine, but it's not 200,000 or anything.
no, not even close. Yeah, it's. I don't know. Like, I don't know if they're. I. I don't know. Are they controlled off? I don't know.
That's so funny, man. I didn't know that you were still dealing with that. So if you guys do want to try out his product and you're looking for the methylene blue drops, it'll just be labeled like kind of a blank photo with MB and a question mark. Why don't you tell everybody where to find you on Instagram, what your website is, and you have a bunch of other products. If you want to kind of rattle off a few of those that they can try, you can do that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, my Instagram is Adam Marafioti. That's just all one word, and my business is lifeblud.co. That's my website, lifeblud.co, and Instagram is at lifebloodco. Um, yeah, and I just sell basically a host of supplements that help reinvigorate the energy process, and um, I'm branching out sort of this year into a few other things like high quality amino acids and a Tudka product that I'm working on actually. So I'm really excited about that stuff. I just launched K2 in capsule form in like a lower dose that's like super affordable. Um, and yeah, I just focus on basically trying to get the highest quality ingredients and the best forms of supplements because a lot of the big companies out there, they have, like really affordable products and stuff, and you can go on Amazon and find a lot of stuff, but often the products are either not effective or the wrong forms of stuff, or they add a bunch of stuff in the capsule that is, weird or just not stuff we want in our bodies in general on an ongoing basis. And so I've just been trying to basically provide a solution to that issue because, supplements are really helpful, and all the context that we've talked about in this show and stuff, it's just like supplements can be super results oriented and results giving, and it's nice to just be able to use clean supplements, and not have to worry about like, oh, is there this toxin in that, or is, what's not mentioned a lot is like the active ingredients of supplements can be like 10% by weight of like the actual ingredient and like 80% of like some nonsense. And companies don't have to list that at all. They can just list the active ingredient and you won't know. And so like, I don't know, like there's just a lot of the stuff kind of behind the scenes that these big companies don't care. They're not customers of their own products. They don't care about like your health. They're not like on the ground with us, right? And like trying to like figure stuff out and get healthier and all that. And I think it's just good to like have a company like mine, or like there's probably other companies out there similar that are just like making clean, high quality stuff that you can use. And I'm not trying to tell people you need to take supplements every day for the rest of your life, or you need to take all my products, but do your research, and if you want to take them, they're there and they're good.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm a huge proponent of supplements of some form. I think with the toxicity and the heavy metals and the chronic infections, I think it's really hard to get everything you need through just a whole foods diet. I tried that for a long time and it didn't work. So there's multiple different contributing factors there as far as like a lot of times I think we don't really seek out help when we kind of just feel off, when we have a little inflammation. We don't really go to try to seek help until we're like crashed and burned, like I was, right? Like Lyme disease, full blown like brain fog, like wake up one day, like how in the fuck did I get here? Like what just
Mhm.
happened? I felt like last year I was like decent, and now I'm just like totally off. But if I look back, there were years of low energy. I was having hip joint pain. There was signals that I just didn't pay attention to. And
Yeah.
so that being said, I think a lot of people are in the same boat. They don't want to spend the money, and they don't want to do certain things for their health and switch their diet. And then they get to such a point that there is no other way. Like the whole foods themselves aren't going to get you back, because your gut function's so fucked up that you have malabsorption. Your stress levels are super high from all the toxins you have. So you're just like burning through minerals, burning through vitamins. So I think if a lot of people get to a critical point where there really is no way to get back to balance without a lot of these products.
Yeah. Agreed.
Cool, man. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, your story, your supplements. I think you're doing great work. I'm glad there's more clean companies like yourself coming out who are really doing the research and then providing the information.
Awesome. Thank you very much. It's been good.
Yeah, later. Yeah, well, we'll have you back on, I guess, over time. Maybe as you keep coming out with new products, anytime you want to promote or whatever, just hit me up.
Sweet.
Cool.